If you spend any time online, you've seen the hyper-caffeinated sprint required to be successful. Wake up at 4 a.m., plunge into an ice bath, read 3 books, and launch a startup before the sun comes up. The promise is that if you mirror this exact routine, unlimited wealth will naturally follow. But that ignores the math. Socioeconomic factors dictate your starting line, and no amount of cold plunges will instantly erase systemic financial hurdles. That brings us to lists like 15 things poor people do that the rich don't. It's a breakdown claiming that everyday micro-choices are the true dividing line between poverty and wealth. The problem with treating this list as gospel is that it conflates very real economic traps with personal laziness. And practically, demanding flawless execution across 15 different high-stress habits every single day is a recipe for burnout. To actually pull value from this kind of advice, we have to filter out the performative hustle. We need to isolate the few specific habits that offer real financial leverage. We're mapping these 15 rules onto this chart. The horizontal lifestyle friction axis measures the time and cost of a habit. The vertical financial impact axis tracks measurable returns. We'll plot all 15 rules to locate the actions with the highest return. Because optimizing your life requires cutting the high-friction tasks that barely move the needle, so you can focus your energy strictly on the actions that mathematically generate wealth. The first habits we need to look at fall into a category we'll call defensive fundamentals. These are daily practices strictly dedicated to preventing catastrophic financial loss before it happens. The list explicitly targets the use of credit cards and loans to buy depreciating consumer goods. Taking on high-interest debt just for financing a new phone immediately traps your future income to pay for past consumption. That exact logic applies to buying hype clothing. Swiping a card inside a Supreme store to signal social status guarantees you'll pay a premium for an asset that drops in value the moment you take off the tags. The material also highlights 2 physical factors: skipping preventative health checkups and maintaining poor personal hygiene. Both are cited as massive long-term barriers to your earning power. There is a real trade-off here. Booking doctors and paying copays when you feel completely fine requires time and upfront cash, but that investment shields you from discovering an illness so late that it wipes out your savings with medical debt. Looking at the chart, these points move to the top right. They require high effort and discipline to maintain, but avoiding debt, holding cash reserves, and getting regular checkups yield an incredibly high return on investment. These defensive plays are strict prerequisites. You cannot out-earn a financial disaster if you lack the protective infrastructure to survive one. Our next category asks for a complete overhaul of your schedule. These are the time reallocation protocols. The list takes a hard stance against leisure, stating that watching reality television and obsessing over professional sports ensures your career will stagnate because you remain a spectator rather than a player. There is one small caveat offered. Quoting John Lennon, the source notes that time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time, but it quickly dismisses staring at a screen as genuine enjoyment. What the advice misses is the hidden social tax. Reclaiming 10 to 20 hours a week by cutting out pop culture or sports means you lose the common language that builds rapport with your peers and coworkers.
Then there is the loudest rule in hustle culture. You must wake up early. The advice points to executives like Bill Gates to argue that youth spent sleeping is wasted potential. And naturally, it relies on the extreme routines of figures like Elon Musk to prove that early mornings are a defining characteristic of the wealthy. But biology makes this complicated. Forcing yourself out of bed at 4 a.m. without matching it with a strictly early bedtime leads directly to chronic sleep deprivation, lowering your decision quality. On the grid, these rules land deep in high-friction territory. Giving up your social outlets and fighting your natural sleep cycle requires an immense amount of willpower, while the guaranteed financial impact is actually quite moderate. Trading your rest for more working hours only pays out if you spend those reclaimed hours specifically building leverage. Otherwise, you are just working longer for the sake of suffering. The final set of habits demands a ruthless audit of your environment, your personal beliefs, your social circles, and your biological timeline. The material claims that the wealthy rely entirely on themselves rather than religious faith, using Mark Zuckerberg's shifting public stances on religion as proof of calculated self-reliance. It also leans on the old adage that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The strict directive is to cut ties with stagnant peers, and seek out groups that force you to elevate. Then there is the hardest rule: delaying children. Mathematically, waiting to have kids preserves massive amounts of capital and time for career risks. But that cold calculation clashes violently with biological windows and personal fulfillment. When we map these environmental audits, they move into this quadrant. The lifestyle friction is immense, and the financial impact varies wildly from person to person. Pruning your social network and delaying a family will certainly provide a massive ceiling for career growth, but it requires accepting very heavy emotional and relational casualties. Now we can convert this data into an actual roadmap. Executing these habits out of order is why most people fail. Here is the path for the debt-heavy beginner. If your net worth is negative, your only assignment is mastering the defensive plays, eliminating consumer credit, building emergency savings, and protecting your baseline health. Notice how the rest of the tree fades out. If you are struggling with high-interest debt, forcing yourself up at 4 a.m. or trying to network with millionaires is a distraction from immediate financial triage. Shifting over to the comfortable middle. You have baseline stability and a savings account, but your career lacks momentum. Your engine for growth is time reallocation. This is the exact stage where you must trade the comfort of evening escapism for skill acquisition. You need those hours to build the expertise required to jump into a new tax bracket. Finally, we have the aggressive optimizer. Once you possess the capital and the high-leverage skills, you can afford to survive the friction of auditing your social circles and taking massive calculated risks. The objective verdict on hustle culture is simple. Reject the guilt of not executing all 15 of these rows perfectly every single day. True wealth generation is simply aligning your highest effort daily sacrifices with the specific habits that actually compound for your current stage of life.